the relationship between Destiny and his viewers is so totally different than the relationship between Nick and his viewers. These people are disgusting pieces of crap. Like, people who think that you should just dehumanize folks. I think that like a lot of the crap about like the alt-right pipeline and the way that people go down like YouTube algorithms and stuff is overhyped and a little bit overblown. But that was definitely my experience. It could have been that I just like waited a little while longer and eventually got to the point where I didn't like Jews. I've had this conversation so many times as well, where people are like, Tom, this is dangerous, man. You're gonna get yourself hurt. When I go in and talk to Groypers, like, I'm not friends with these guys, but I'm friendly with them. And they did this with Matt Walsh as well, where like people kept saying in the comments of the Matt Walsh video, like, well, he's not gonna say his real beliefs. I'm like, wait, you guys can't do this with everybody, dude. Where like you just make up horrible beliefs for them to have. So there's a bunch of people in the comments of a video talking about how bad faith Destiny was in the Nick Fuentes thing. And it seemed like they were all Groypers, just from like the way that they were acting. They seemed like Groypers. I don't understand why. It seems like they're just making stuff up. Like, what do they think happened? What do they think Destiny did to Nick Fuentes? I'm so confused. Like, I'm so lost on this. From everything that I followed, Big Tech said the stuff about getting Mr. Girl banned. Destiny pulled Big Tech onto stream to talk to him and say, hey, dude, I want to be able to talk to Nick Fuentes. But if Nick Fuentes followers all of a sudden start reporting the other people that I engage with, I'm now endangering them by engaging with Nick Fuentes. Like, Mr. Girl lost his entire channel. Then there's clips of Big Tech over here advocating for people to go report him. That made perfect sense. Nick went on, said, yeah, you're right. Guys, we shouldn't be doing this. I don't advocate for this. Like, totally right. But then out of nowhere, like, I think Destiny and Nick even like asked each other at the end, like, okay, so we're good? Like, are we okay? And Destiny was just like, I don't know, like, we might have to push back the debate a little bit. But he's like, oh, let me think about it, right? But then Nick goes back and turns around and is like, oh, Destiny was so bad faith. Destiny, I can't believe the way he was acting. Oh, it was so messed up, blah, blah, blah. Like, out of nowhere. Like, he was perfectly happy with the way the conversation ended. And then all of a sudden, he's not perfectly happy with the way the conversation ended. Just kind of out of nowhere. So I don't understand how people turn around and are like, wow, I can't believe how Destiny was acting. It's like, wait, what? How he was acting? Nick was fine with how he was acting. Nick and him were cool after that conversation. And then after Nick does that, after Nick goes and just like completely turns on everything he had said before, now all of a sudden Destiny's arguing with Mr. Girl about calling Nick a Nazi, right? And like having like long conversations with him about this crap. Tom, you want to watch the Nick Fuentes documentary, or you got something else? Destiny was bad faith with his Nick collab. His entire premise for the interaction was to make Nick look bad and get him to have less fans. He wasn't perfectly happy with the ending of the conversation because there was no time to think about it, because the debate was supposed to be the next day and there was no time to prep. Wait, yeah, he had already said that he wanted to push it back. But that he wanted to think about whether or not they were going to reschedule the debate. That's what Destiny said. There was time. He already said he wasn't going to do the debate and that they were going to push it back to, or that he might push it back or he might reschedule. But Nick and Destiny both talked about this on stream like 2 or 3 different times, where both of them said they were there to capture the other person's audience. They both said this to each other numerous times. That's not bad faith. If you think Destiny was being bad faith, then you think Nick was being bad faith too. That just doesn't make sense. Both of them said that they were trying to capture the other person's audience. Nick said a couple of times that they were at war for their viewers' souls or something like that. I remember these things clearly. He said it numerous times. So yeah, what you're saying just isn't true. Like, that's not how things happened. And this is all, yeah, like very like there's a lot of recency bias there to like forget everything else that happened on top of that. Nick was doing several things. He was memeing about taking people's souls. No, he literally talked numerous times about like not taking people's souls. They were in a battle for each other's viewers' souls or something like that. Like, he was saying, like, he wants people to come to Christ. He wants to win them over into his audience. He wants to like win their souls over to Jesus Christ. That's what he was talking about when he says that he was, you know, battling for their souls. Again, he said this numerous times, that he, like, the two of them were competing to get the viewers to come over to the other person's side. Destiny said that to Nick from the beginning. So, like, it's just, there's no way to call this bad faith. Destiny did not say what his plan was from the beginning. You're talking about the plan thing that he just talked about recently, but there's nothing bad faith about that.
Right. The Fuentes bridge is perma burning, I guess, or maybe not, but who knows. I need to do what I need to do on my side of the internet, and I don't think anybody understands it.
Yes, it would sound like he's crapping on him. Yeah, that's what he's saying, is that he's not crapping on him, but it would seem that way. Lots of people would take it that way.
Definitely not Max. Max is like the last person in the world that can be involved in the stuff that I do. I think when he wanted to have these conversations relating to the Nazi stuff, I think I should have just not had those conversations publicly ever with him.
Dude, it's crazy. Like, those conversations with Max about the Nazi stuff led to so much other bullcrap. Like, the entire Mr. Girl, you know, bridge burning was over the Nazi stuff in the first place, where they had the conversations about that, and then Mr. Girl goes to the subreddit and starts like claiming victory and is like, oh yeah, Destiny was so bad faith, and I was showing him, and blah blah blah. And there were tons of people in Destiny's audience who were completely in agreement with Mr. Girl, and we're all there like, yeah, he was being bad faith and crap like that. And that started the, like, what Destiny calls the jerk wave against him, and he didn't want like to be like housing his own anti-fan Reddit, you know, subreddit. So he decided that he had to stop Mr. Girl from like turning everybody against him, and that led to eventually the bridge burning. So which parts are you chalking up to Destiny being wrong, and which parts are you willing to say he was engaging in bad faith? Well, that's what I'm saying. I haven't heard anything that's bad faith whatsoever. The little bit of information that you've given is either like half true or just not true at all. This is why I said at the beginning, I can't imagine any argument that would make this make sense from Nick's side. And so far, I haven't seen anything that even remotely changes my mind on that. But we're going to go over this video real quick before I get off. We'll go over this video, and if there's something in there that you think is bad faith, you can let me know.
He had nothing of value to say to me on that matter. And everything that he's had to say afterwards has been entirely worthless. Not only worthless, but it's been poisoning like parts of my community and like the overall discourse related to anything that is going on. So the problem, okay, I've talked.
If we work all the way back, Destiny's interpretation is that Nick is a godlike figure to the Groypers, and if he humanizes Nick, then it's like making God bleed. Yeah, first off, my engagement with the Groypers has made me feel like they treat him like a godlike figure. People are all so overly like praising him, and I think a lot of it starts off as like memery and everybody like talking about him that way as memes. But when you can consistently like push this idea of this guy being so great, yeah, I think over time, like, people start to drink the Kool-Aid. I think they start to believe their own memes. Like, when you talk somebody up over and over, like the Groypers start like disagreements and stuff with him is normally very like, what do you call it? Like teasing kind of, right? Like I go on to Politically Provoked all the time and ask all of them, like, hey, so how did you feel about Nick doing this? How did you feel about Nick saying this? Like, what were your opinions of this? It is always everybody jumping up and down defending him. And that's how the chats are as well. Like, there's not a whole lot of people like disagreeing with Nick. There's not a lot of people like arguing him and debating with him and challenging him within the community. Destiny's community is a ton of people nonstop coming for his head and, challenging him and fighting with him and stuff like that. And he hangs out with these people, he talks to them and does just like they're normal people. He has like Discord stuff with them and movie nights with them, and is doing his canvassing thing where he's paying for all of them to go out and stay in a hotel, and then he's canvassing with them. Like the relationship between Destiny and his viewers is so totally different than the relationship between Nick and his viewers. And the ways that people would talk about Destiny is like, oh, he's this streamer guy who debates and plays video games. Like, and you can watch like all of the interviews that I do for the documentary where like that's pretty much how people describe him. But if I go talk to a bunch of Groypers and ask them what they think about Nick Fuentes, or ask them to describe him, they're going to describe him as like this great man on this great, important journey to save everybody. And, in a political sense, like he's leading the movement to make America what it is that they want and to make it a good place again. Like the narratives, but behind these two people and the ways that their audiences interact with them, like the amount of parasociality between the two are like night and day. Nick takes criticism from his friends. Most people haven't earned the right to do that. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. What you just said right there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They haven't earned the right to do that. So we got one guy who will take criticism from anybody and everybody. He goes through his Reddits and reads what people are saying about him. He goes into his Discord and reads what people are saying about him. He watches small streamers, big streamers, like he'll watch what everybody else says about him and respond to them. But for Nick, you have to earn the right to criticize him and to engage with him. And like you are completely making my point. Like, yes, this is like the way that people talk about him, and they do put him up on such a pedestal that just seems odd for who he is and the young dorky like Zoomer type kid that he is. Like it is really odd for everybody else on the outside looking in. How the fans talk about Destiny versus Nick is a consequence of what the two of them are doing. Nick is more passionate and working towards a real life goal. Nick isn't just streaming 16 hours a day and has all the time in the world to bring on random nobodies to make the same ill-founded criticisms based on misunderstandings. He's running a real political movement and is busy. He can't do what Destiny does. First off, what he does on his streams, he perfectly well could do, like talk to people and do call-ins and have, back and forths with his fans. Two, the other people around him, they have like rankings and call them like Groyper generals and crap like that. They've talked about like, harassing other people. They call it the Groyper war. Like they act like this is like the George Washington of making America great. He hasn't, like, I understand he has bigger political aspirations and other things that he wants to do, but he hasn't done those things. And he's achieved a lot. He has. But even just scratch all that. Forget that. Just on his streams, he's able to interact with people and he's able to look at criticisms more. He's able to engage with people more. He's able to do all this stuff. It's not like he's such a busy person that he's incapable of doing this crap. He does really goofy, time wasting types of stuff on his streams all the time. He's not like so pinched for time that he could never do that sort of crap. Destiny's not sitting around talking to callers all day every day. Like, he's not sitting there taking criticisms from randoms all day every day, but like maybe once a day. There's no way that Nick doesn't have time for this. He's not that busy.
I spoke with Supreme a little bit offline about this. I'll be more candid now, I guess, about stuff relating to Fuentes. Okay, so actually, I don't actually care. I'll just be open about everything related to Fuentes now, because I don't know if that whole thing is dead. Okay, so here's just some stuff. Okay. Sanitizing.
I agree with you that a lot of these things are memes. My point is that the memes become like they seem to be said seriously now. All of this stuff more and more is not tongue in cheek. It is like people actually drinking the Kool-Aid and believing their own memes. And yeah, like I said, and so that's like even everything that you're saying and the way that you're talking about him right now, like this like makes Destiny's point and shows that like, yeah, this isn't, he's not being bad faith. People really do think about Nick in this way, and he wants to kind of like knock him off his pedestal a bit.
Nick Fuentes would be bad. I agree to that. I did not sanitize Nick Fuentes. Demonizing Nick Fuentes is also bad. I did not demonize Nick Fuentes. The thing that needs to happen, in my opinion, to take apart somebody's view of the world, is they have to be humanized. They have to be. People mistake the idea of humanizing somebody.
See, and I would think that you guys would hear this and like this. I would think that you guys would hear this and be like, because people really do dehumanize Groypers and like people that they would consider neo-Nazis and alt-righters and that sort of crap. Like they insanely dehumanize them. And even I've gotten criticism from a ton of people saying you shouldn't talk to them in that way because you do humanize them. And that's something that I've always taken issue with is, well, they are freaking humans. Are you nuts? Like, this is a thing that I hear all the time from lefties is you are humanizing the far right. And yeah, if you guys don't feel human, then why the hell would you listen to any of these other people? Like, if you guys are so outcasted to where people are willing to dehumanize you, why the hell would you ever listen to anybody else? Why the hell would you ever take their side? And these people are disgusting pieces of crap. Like, people who think that you should just dehumanize folks for stuff like this, they are like scum of the earth, bottom of the bottom. Like, they are pieces of crap, and they love to run around and talk crap about everybody else like they're all high and mighty, but they are part of the reasons that we end up with like radical people in America.
With sanitizing somebody. And I didn't realize this until halfway through my interactions with Nick because of emails that I got from Nick's fans. So the problem with sanitizing somebody, what does sanitizing mean? Sanitizing means that you take somebody and you make their views seem better than they actually are. Never done that with Nick in my entire life. If you think I have, you're wrong. You just haven't watched our conversations. However, the opposite of sanitizing somebody's views is not holding their feet to the fire or holding them accountable. The opposite is demonizing somebody. The problem with, hold on. When I ban you for topics that are around this thing, I'm not banning you because I'm mad at you, or I'm not banning you because I think you said something mean or wrong. I'm banning you because I don't want you in my community because you're toxic poison.
See, okay, and then him doing something like that. This is him banning people who are saying that you shouldn't humanize these sorts of people. Like, this is, like, I would think that most Groypers would see this and, like, think that this was a dope video. But instead, they all turned around and got offended by it.
And I want you to go fuck off to Hassan or Vash's community. I don't want you being anywhere around me because you are the worst type of person in the world. And I don't want you near my shit. When I'm banning you for these types of conversations, don't email or ask for an unban. I just don't want you in my community. It's like a personal thing. It's not like you broke a rule. It's like, I don't want you here at all. Just as a heads up. Okay. So sanitizing somebody's views are bad because when you do that, you give people the impression that they're not as radical as they actually are, or that they are, just that they're not as radical as they actually are. Like, oh, well, this is a normal thing, or this isn't that extreme, or blah, 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 right? The problem with a demonization of somebody, though, which is what Mr. Girl wants to do, ironically enough, saying, and I know he's going to have like 50 million. Well, I'm not talking about demonizing him. I'm just saying about he'll have like a way to Mr. Girl his way out of the conversation, but I'm not interested in playing the word games right now. I'm just being frank, right? The problem with demonizing somebody, it's the same issue when you think about Nazis, okay? Like, Nazis are people that are fundamentally evil, and I could never be a Nazi, and I think that like there's just something wrong with all of their brains. Okay, that's not true. Okay, every Nazi was a human being, and every human being has the potential to be a Nazi. Okay? You have to understand that. That's an incredibly important thing to understand. Because given the right set of circumstances, you've got things like the Milgram experiment that, you know, show how many people will be pushed to deliver a 300-volt shock to somebody on the other end, even when they stop responding. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of other like social psych experiments that show that people can like defer commands to people, that people can be conditioned to do crazy things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People in certain environments can be made to do things that seem inhuman just because of the environments they're in. It's not even something, I don't even care to argue that. It's just like it's a fact of the matter. So demonizing somebody is not good because you make it seem like those particular political beliefs can only be held by a demon. Only an inhuman person could ever believe something like racism or sexism or homophobiaism or deadbeat dadism, right? Only a crazy person believe that, okay? So my goal is not to sanitize. I'm fighting against people that are demonizing. My goal is to humanize. That actually is my goal. I do want people to see Fuentes as a normal human being who eats chicken and waffles and can hang out with people and blah, 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 blah. Because it's important to, one, recognize in other people that plenty of people can hold these types of beliefs. And two, recognize that you at some point in your life can hold those types of beliefs. It probably would only take 2 or 3 bad friends, 2 or 3 weeks to start to significantly shift your opinions on things just through humor. And you don't realize it. Most people think they'd be impervious to it. You're not. I don't even know if I would be. I think if I had the right set of friends, I might find myself thinking weird things in a couple of weeks if we said certain jokes or did certain things after.
I didn't have the right set of friends, but I followed down like the right set. Like I think that like a lot of the crap about like the alt-right pipeline and the way that people go down like YouTube algorithms and stuff is overhyped and a little bit overblown. But that was definitely my experience. That is definitely what happened for me, is like starting off with like, you know, Ben Shapiro's and, you know, Joe Rogan's and people like that. And then over time getting recommended more and more extreme things and kind of like wandering my way down that pipeline. That I was never alt-right. I never had like the issues with Jewish people, or, you know, I was never like as conspiratorial as other people, but I was over on that side. I was definitely like hardcore, like, you know, white people are oppressed, white, you know, there's everybody's unfair to white people, like we need more rights protections and all that sort of bull crap. Like that was definitely me for a very long time. It could have been that I just like waited a little while longer and eventually got to the point where I didn't like Jews. I don't know, but I doubt it just based on my upbringing. But if I didn't have that upbringing and I didn't have that like respect for Jews, I don't think that I could have like pulled myself out as easily as I did.
Most of the positive emails that I received from, okay, let me back up one more step. When I'm looking at like, two things clicked for me a little bit ago. One had to do with mass shooters and the other had to do with like the Groyper community. And when I'm trying to figure out like, okay, well, who are these people? Why did they believe the things they do? What kind of community is it? When I don't remember, I don't know if I've said this on stream or this has just been in private chats. I think this has just been in private chats so far. When people think of the Groyper community, people will look at the Groyper community and think that like, it's this highly radical group of people that log into chat getting marching orders from Fuentes so that they can like gear up, go prepare with like their white nationalist friends for the incoming revolution, get ready to stage a secondary January 6th event, boom, 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 boom. This is like what a Groyper is, okay? Number 1 threat to democracy, peace, freedom, and security of the United States. I think that what a Groyper actually is I think that there's like a collection of people that are like pretty lonely, don't have very many friends, don't feel like there's many people in society that are like speaking at them, and they kind of have like a community where they feel like they can go and hang out, and they have like their racist memes, but it's like a place where basically you go, you type, you know, Nick is funny, you laugh with him, you laugh with your fellow community members, yeah, you make a lot of racist and anti-Semitic jokes, but it's like your community. It's like your place on the internet that you feel like you belong, and it's the only place in the community that like can understand you or hear you out. And that's like the lens that I view the Groyper people through. I don't think that it's through some hyper-radicalized extremist military fascist faction ready to conduct World War III, like the second revolutionary war in the United States. I think this is a group of like pretty lonely dudes, not even all white really, but just like a group of like pretty lonely young Zoomer men that kind of like feel lost, and Nick is kind of like this charismatic voice that carries them through the darkness essentially. So with that in mind, so there are a couple of goals, or things that I have when it comes to dealing with Nick. So one is trying to be relentlessly good faith to show that there are people that will not only like listen to you, but people that like will even let you make a few mistakes and like still try to like advocate for you in your corner, which I did relentlessly with Nick. Even if it didn't ultimately work on him, I got a lot of emails from people. The emails that I got, the words that I got, so what people I think are looking for is like, wow, Destiny, you de-radicalized me, and now I'm a social democrat, and I love trans people, blah, 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 blah. That wasn't the type of messages that I normally got. Usually what it was these were like the interesting emails to me. It was people basically saying like, I used to see Nick as this like unassailable God figure who was kind of like the leader of my movement online. And when I see you guys hanging in real life, what I realized is that Nick is kind of just like a nerdy, normal dude, like kind of like me. And it was really interesting to like see him in that perspective. That basically like seeing that he's kind of like an awkward, funny dude in real life, just like changed the way that they kind of viewed Nick. It made him seem a lot less untouchable as like a figure, and that maybe he wasn't like this kind of like untouchable God person that they'd seen on stream a lot. So I think a lot of the actions that people saw me take in terms of like, oh my God, you're humanizing Nick, that's horrible. I think that humanizing him in front of his audience is good because I don't think they view him as a human. A lot of
See, like talking about this sort of stuff and people thinking that this is bad faith just makes me feel like Groypers are like scared. Like they hear that people are actually like Destiny humanizing him and making him look like a normal person. Like they think that's a bad thing. Like they think making Nick look like a normal human, they think that's bad. It's like, oh crap, like if they think that's bad, then like they really do like think that he is this like godlike figure, and they're just like afraid of losing that. I don't see how else this could be looked at as bad faith.
Other people see him as almost like a deity, like this figure that like is like this god emperor that's like leading them through the darkness, the shepherd leading the sheep, and blah blah blah. I think showing him in a more human light, it's like, look, this is like a normal dude. He laughs, he's kind of awkward, blah blah blah. It's like the first step towards kind of like moving people in this idea of like, okay, we shouldn't worship people online, and this guy isn't like a perfect, unattackable god. And then it also makes me a bit more endearing to them ideally as well, because I'm the one that's like kind of facilitating this process. The problem is that one, that process is really hard to do in the open, because I can't say like, I understand you guys are all lonely fucking losers, so let me be nice to you, because it sounds weird and condescending. But two, if I don't say that, I've got these weird games being played in the background where people like Mr. Girl or a lot of you guys are acting like the stakes are like the end of the fucking world if like you don't do this actually perfectly. Like you're playing a really risky fucking game here. You're gonna fuck up. Like if you fuck up, it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world.
I've had this conversation so many times as well, where people are like, Tom, this is dangerous, man. You're going to get yourself hurt talking to these people. You are so stupid. You are like a child, dude. Like there was a guy who I was like, look, I went through all of this, and I'm glad that I got out, and I know what I had to learn to like unlearn all of the other things. And so I would like to like at least give other people that opportunity if they're looking for it. Like if they want to find something else and they're actually listening and they're actually like open to something else, then like I don't want to be the person to like deny that to them. That would be messed up. And then like 2 or 3 days later, people would be like, oh, so is everybody de-radicalized yet? Oh, no. Dude, this is so embarrassing for you. I'm like, you guys are so stupid. Like you guys are literally like children. Like you think like what? Like people just like decide to be de-radicalized one day and then that's it? Like it's over? Do you think that like that was my plan? I was just gonna walk in and just be like, ha, here's the information. You're all de-radicalized now. You're welcome. Like I don't know what they were expecting. These people were so dumb and so bad faith. And it's all these like dumb lefties who think that they're like being super helpful and like saving the world, and they're gonna stop people from talking to Groypers, and then the world will be saved and the Groypers will all disappear. And like that's just, yeah, it's so stupid. They expected you to hand them blue pills, Tom. Yeah, that is what they expected. Yes, like here you go, now you're cured. You're cured of Groyperism. You're welcome. But then they're like, if you don't cure them just like that, if it's not curing them right away, then you failed. You need to stop. It's going to get you killed. Like they really like view these like groups as like these dark, shadowy, like dangerous people all like running around killing people and, trying to find gay people on the streets to murder them. And it's just sad because all of them are just watching a little bit too much media, and they'll watch and it is again, I mean, I hate to keep saying it is people like TYT who's like feeding people this sort of bull crap, and then they've got like no responsibility in the outcomes of that crap.
World. And there is nothing to fuck up here. Not to be rude towards Nick, but the reality is that I'm in the best position of my life to practice this type of conversation because Fuentes has a hardcore social ceiling on where he can ever go to. He's never growing on me on Twitter. He's never growing on me off of like YouTube subs. He's never like going back on Twitch. Like the guy's vertical ascent is like dead on arrival. Like there's nowhere for him to go. He can't go up. So like the risk, even if I fumble and fuck up everything, the risk isn't really there in terms of like Nick exploding into some figure. He's not going to be the next president of the United States. He's not, like his political future is fairly dead unless he radically changes his platform. There is no risk there. Now, I can't say this publicly in the past because it makes it look like I'm kind of like shitting all over blah 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 blah. But it's why there's only a wave of fascist legislation in motion. No big.
Yeah, like he said to Nick numerous times, like, we're not friends. Just so you know, we are not friends. And Nick would say stuff like, yeah, we're buds. And you'd be like, no, we are not. Hold on, don't say that. We are not friends, right? He wanted to be friendly with Nick. He wanted to make sure that Nick felt comfortable enough to continue talking to him. Yeah, of course. And I do the same thing. When I go in and talk to Groypers, like, I'm not friends with these guys, but I'm friendly with them. It's not like I pity them and like treat them like little hurt puppies that I need to save. It's more like they're people that I want to debate, just like I do with the left wingers and the the crazy commies and socialists, like I want to be able to debate them. I want to be able to keep talking to them. And so I'll keep at least somewhat of a cordial relationship with them over time so that, yeah, so that I'm able to do that.
Geek Destiny. Lost Highway, I'm permabanning you from my channel. I just want you to know that I know for a fact that if I were to pull you into my Discord right now and ask you to define fascism, you would stumble over yourself like the disgusting fucking loser you are, okay? Go back to your college campus, go suck off your fucking sociology professor, get the fuck out of here, you loser, fuck. And make sure that after you swallow their cum, you use the they, them pronouns that I'm sure that they refer to themselves as, okay? You fucking loser, get the fuck out of my chat. Yeah, so ultimately the goal was, look,
what's up,
Fuentes is like a human
Dreamspeak?
dude,
What's up,
we're chill,
Max?
we're cool, everything is fine. This is a normal human being. Like, you can have normal human being conversations with this person. You don't have to be like, feel like you're lonely and still like crazy shit. And I even started to see some level of integration with like Groyper people into my chat in non-toxic ways. So like the Kai Cliffs guy is actually like fairly funny. And generally when he's in my chat, he's not acting like fucking insane. He's not being like a crazy Groyper, blah, blah, blah. And there are a few people, some that you don't know about, that are like participating in my community and in my chat. And then everybody's looking like, oh God, the Groyper, blah, 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 take over. That's good. I welcome that.
Wait, what? Irrelevant got into his head that Destiny thought and said that he had no hand in the reputation of Redacted when he was just pushing back against Max, implying he was the only reason they clarified. I don't understand any of that. I'm sorry. I might be a little too high, but wait, okay. That was part of another message. Sometimes people run into this issue where somebody says something extreme, and then when Destiny's pushing back, somebody else takes from that he's denying / defending something entirely. Yeah, well, so I think the same thing happened with Mr. Girl though, where like Mr. Girl wasn't actually trying to get Destiny to call Nick a Nazi, but the entire time, the way that he was arguing made it sound like he was trying to get Destiny to call Nick a Nazi. Destiny would be like, oh no, I'm not going to call him a Nazi. Well, why not? It's not fair. Like, that's just kind of how it went the entire time. And then in the end, he's like, did I ever say that you should call him a Nazi? And it's like, oh, wait. Okay, I guess you didn't actually say that. But, like, your arguments this entire time, it sounded like that's what you're asking for. Like, it sounds like that's what you want. And now all of a sudden you're telling us that's not what you wanted? Like, after all that fighting over whether or not he calls him a Nazi, like you don't actually want him to call him a Nazi? Okay, I guess I believe you. It's just like, it seems weird that you like spent all that time and effort like making a big deal about whether or not he calls him a Nazi, and then you turn around and are like, wait, what? I don't want him to call him a Nazi. Why would I want him to call him a Nazi?
I want more like of those far right people hanging out of my chat because one, I know they're not going to be as extreme here. Two, they're going to be exposed to jokes, humors, and ways of socializing that aren't as like politically extreme. And three, fuck, there was a third one. Oh fuck, I just forgot. I just slipped my mind. I just read something else in chat that triggered me, and I didn't ban the person. I should have banned the person. Whatever. Those 2 points are enough. Yeah, getting them out of their communities into my chats and everything. Like, yeah, it gives them like other communities to like be a part of and show that like you don't have to be crazy, blah blah blah. But yeah, I think all of that like was positive. That was kind of like the idea or the goal is to like that kind of like relentless positivity. But this idea of like Fuentes was sanitized by Steven and the DGG versus Groyper conversion zero-sum game idea was wrong and irrelevant. Mr. Girl doesn't know how to have these conversations. He doesn't know how to talk to people that disagree with him in almost any way whatsoever. He has a really big problem understanding any other point of view besides his own. And when confronted with evidence or logics that show that he might be incorrect, he has self-reinforcing ways of making it so he never has to listen to any of that critique. So like he is the worst type of person to have these types of conversations, and probably one of the last people's criticism that I cared to have in my head regarding these conversations. The problem with Fuentes was never that he was sanitized. The problem with Fuentes is that he's been demonized for so long that people don't view his beliefs that a human being can have. There's like there must be.
That's one of my frustrations with stuff like this, is that like every time I would try to like talk to people about Groyper stuff, or even like so yeah, they would always like stop by like saying or start by saying like, you know, well, that's not what they actually believe. They won't tell you their actual beliefs. I'm like, why not though? Like, they say like horrible stuff all the time. Like, why would we believe that like they're lying about other things? Like, they seem to be pretty upfront about like really crazy freaking crap. So why is that the part where they stop being honest? Like, it doesn't make sense. And they did this with Matt Walsh as well, where like people kept saying in the comments of the Matt Walsh video, like, well, he's not going to say his real beliefs. I'm like, wait, you guys can't do this with everybody, dude. Where like you just make up horrible beliefs for them to have, or you know, or you get to like deny everything that they say all the time and just say, oh no, well they actually believe this other thing. Like there's like this video, like the alt-right playbook, and I think that this just seriously poisoned people. Like that the stuff in that video, it wasn't untrue, but now people like take that and apply that to everybody that they don't like. And that's just not how that works. Like you can't take everybody that's right and treat them like they're freaking alt-righters, like with secret code language, you know. It's just, yeah.
Or like the Pirates of the Caribbean, like in order to destroy somebody, you have to humanize them first. My goal isn't to destroy Fuentes. I just want to show that like all of us are people at the end of the day. Like people can have like different beliefs and opinions, and some might even be really fucked up. But it's important to understand that at the end of the day, it's all just normal people. There's nothing extra special about Fuentes. The dude's like fucking 23 years old. The problem is that people can't argue against what he believes. Sure, but like let's see like what happened. Okay, I was right. Fuentes was Sanitizing. The zero-sum game, blah blah blah, was irrelevant. What happened when he went on to No Jumper? Like, did he magically turn the entire audience into Nazis? Like, it didn't happen. The whole audience like rebelled against him. Like all of them hated the fuck out of everything that he said, right? Like it's not like he went and all of a sudden like, oh my god, No Jumper's audience are like full fucking Nazis now. No, the people fucking hated him. It was insane. Even without Adam being like the best type of platformer for those conversations, because I haven't even watched it yet, to be honest, but apparently it was very, very, very challenging. I say challenging, they just said bad. But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. There are a couple of big like posters on, they have like a forum on, I'm not gonna say the site, but they have a forum where they communicate against themselves, and they have like thought leaders that like talk about things going on and blah blah blah. And it was interesting because a lot of like the larger posters on the stuff seemed to understand that I was coming at things in as good faith as possible. And it was interesting too because there was a huge analysis that one of them had written up, I think his name's Andrew, I don't remember, I have to go back and find out, about how basically like the recent spat with Destiny like retroactively shows that Fuentes' huge deplatforming arc with Ethan Ralph was like a huge mistake for the community that was limiting the growth and blah blah blah. So yeah, it seemed like parts of their community, or at least the bigger figures, were kind of understanding what was going on, even if they ultimately wouldn't have agreed with me politically or whatever. But yeah. What are you gonna do? Nick was already bigger than you? Absolutely not. I'm 99% sure that the numbers on his on that website are probably inflated. I don't put much stock in it, but
yeah, that I haven't heard anything bad faith in all of this. This just seems like it's like this is what Destiny has always like said he was doing online.
Reviewed the video he was uploading before it went live. After he edited out all of Fuentes' comments about the Holocaust, ask him or Fuentes for the full version. But you can actually say this 100% seriously. But if we don't know what he felt he had to remove to have it on YouTube in the first place, it makes it a little murky. Ari, Mr. I don't know what you are saying. I don't even know what that means, or I don't know what you're getting at there. Even Paul hates Fuentes. It wouldn't surprise me. I haven't read the politics board now. I'm like 85% sure that Nick is gay after reading through a lot of their forums too. At first it was like 30%, then it went down to like 5%, and now I'm at like 85%. I think he actually is, which is extra sad, just because of everything going on in his life and everything. But I mean, what are you gonna do? Oh, I also I don't know if after hanging out with him and getting a feel for him and everything too, nobody will ever believe me, but I'm pretty sure, just because I think this bridge is totally fucking new. Yeah, XYZ, those pictures are weird. If you were to hold a gun to Nick's head and try to get him to espouse his true, actual political beliefs, I think that he's actually way more center-right than he comes off as. I think there's a lot of audience capture that exists there, but it feels like he's traveled enough around and he's talked to enough people that I don't actually know if he can be as far right as he comes off as stream, which is funny because I think people have the impression that he's actually way further right and he's moderated himself for a stream, but I don't think so. I think he plays up some of the far right stuff for the stream because he kind of has to. I think that he's like had a lot of experiences in life and he's gone through some things where it's like there's only so many people that you can meet and there's only so many things you can do for you to have like in my opinion, most really racist, backwards, far right beliefs usually just come from being in a very restrictive environment for a long period of time. It's actually super easy to understand why somebody could hate LGBT people, why somebody could be racist, etc., if you grew up your whole life never seeing any of them. But that's I mean, I can never prove that, but.
Yeah, I was about to say that I don't even know why you bring that up. Like, there's no way you can prove any of this. I don't know why you'd say that on stream.
Yeah, I don't know. What nuked the bridge? Something behind the scenes. Well, now I feel like I have to come out and say and speak to everything because now like Mr. Girl was trying to like run victory laps on my subreddit about his Fuentes analysis, which is fucking god awful. And the oh, and Fuentes' treatment of me is so bad. I don't understand. That's something he'll have to learn and grow. Not to sound like not to be too self-aggrandizing, but like Fuentes should be worshiping me because I am literally I was the only lifeline that he had to like being able to breach like mainstream political conversations. Like I represented a huge potential opportunity to him, and he just was so bad faith in the way that he treats me. It's unbelievable. I don't know why the fuck you would do that. Like he should have been so conciliatory towards me. I'm not looking for that. I'm not asking him to like bitch or anything, but for him to be like relentlessly bad faith against me all the time, I'm like, bro, who the fuck are you? Like I can put you on a stream in front of 14,000 people. Like I'm giving your phone number to like Adam 22 so you can go to a show. Why the fuck would you like burn my shit so hard? Like you're so stupid. But again, like all of that risk is non-existent. I know that there are some people now who are thinking that like, oh no, like Fuentes is gonna get huge off no jump shit. No, he's not. He has no social media presence anywhere. Like he's been destroyed. Like he's not growing. It's not gonna happen. Yeah. Same thing with Keffels. I called that.
Yeah, that Kanye West stuff could possibly change that. I don't think it will, but I think he'll get a big bump for a little bit.
I think she'll be done. I don't think she'll be done streaming in a few months, but like her concurrent viewership is gonna be less than 500. Like she's gone too. Yeah, but you know. Do you think he does it as a signal to his audience? He can't be too friendly with you. I have no idea. I think actually, honest to God, I don't think there's a lot of. I think that in some ways, I think Fuentes is simultaneously like smarter than the average person, but he's still very much like a young kid, like a 24-year-old or whatever the fuck he is. And I see the mistakes that he's making are still very much like a young man's mistakes, but he's like trying to be like the leader of a political movement at the same time. So it's yeah, it's a challenging line for him to walk. Like I don't think he's strategically thinking like I need to push back against Destiny because of blah 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 to showcase to my community. I don't think he's thinking that at all. I think that what he's worried about is he just doesn't want to look bad, and he feels like I'm kind of a jerk to him sometimes. So he wants to like hit back, basically. I think that's it. I think it's as simple as that. Do you want us to still see some say? Do you want us to still see some say some? See something, say something. Oh, do you still want to? Hold on, I'm doxing you. I'm gonna find out what country you live in. I swear to God, you better not be in the fucking Western Hemisphere, or I'm fucking perma banning you for this sentence. Okay. Okay, you gotta slide, but barely, and only because I hate Republicans. Okay. Do you still want us to see something, say something regarding Keffels, or completely stop engaging? Always see something, say something, okay? Always see something, say something. You see wrong shit, say something about it. That's it. Don't be mean, don't bully people, don't harass people. But if you see something, say something, okay? I think Fuentes sees you through the lens of 2018 when you run around and shit on everything that's right. He can't accept that you want to have different conversations now. I think he's constantly expecting you to jump on him like you did that. No, I don't think he should. I've shown enough good faith, or I had shown enough good faith that he shouldn't want to do that, but